Lord forgive me for this trap shit. Sergeant Smack make it backflip. Telly Hank did with the action. With the vital speaking Spanish. Frank Matthews how I vanish. Poof. Came back like I'm King Tut. Gold BBS is on a beamer. When Fat Cat was 10 queens up. Ball off the profit, not the re-up. Fly like Puerto Rican Jesus. Uptown like I'm Baby May. Just caught a touchdown from the bay.
Sometimes the deepest pain doesn't come from what happens to us, but from what happens around us because of us. A decision a person makes, a place they're at, a name that they carry. And before you could even realize the weight of it, the people you love are the ones bearing the burden. Lives are changed, futures are erased, not because they did anything wrong, but simply for who they was close to, for mattering to someone who was caught in the wrong story. This is a cruel truth. Pain doesn't always land where it's earned. Sometimes it finds the innocent. Let me show y'all exactly what that looks like.
We got multiple people shot here. We got at least 4 people shot. We got at least 7 to 8 down.
Dozens and dozens of gunshots fired in an attack the DA is calling planned, calculated, and brutal.
Right here. Right here.
Please tell me my baby ain't over there. Please, somebody tell me my baby ain't over there. They tell me they didn't tell you that. They didn't tell you. Why are you telling me this?
Here's the man who survived the Wilkinsburg massacre while 6 others died. He is 24-year-old Lamont Powell, now walking after he was shot 4 times.
He has tubes coming out of him. He's still stitched up, so he just wants to get better.
After the shooting that left 6 people dead, speculation flooded social media that Powell was the intended target of the shooters. But police have not confirmed such speculation, and Powell has not uttered a single reaction about a suspect now in custody.
What we know is roughly 5 to 11 this evening, the Wilkinsburg police were dispatched to 1304 Franklin Avenue in response to 911 calls about gunfire at the residence. There they found multiple people suffering from gunshot wounds. We have a total of 5 people deceased, 3 other people with gunshot wounds, 2 of those in critical, 1 in stable. The 4 people at the scene that are dead, 3 are females, 1 is a male. Confirmed the person who died at the hospital is also a female. So right now we're asking for anybody who heard or saw anything in the area of 1304 Franklin Avenue or the alley to the rear of 1304 Franklin Avenue to call the Wilkinsburg Police or the County Police Homicide Unit.
After a man is implicated in a murder he's never arrested for, the streets erupt in retaliation. But it wasn't a warning. It was an ambush, a calculated strike that left half of his family dead. 3 siblings, a cousin, an unborn nephew, and a close friend. The man himself, Lamont Powell, survives. But what he survives, no one really recovers from. March 9th, 2016, Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania. A backyard cookout is underway at 1304 Franklin Avenue. Family, friends, music, a spring chill in the air. It feels like any other night until it isn't. Just after 10:45 p.m., shots ring out from the alley. Guests panic, running towards the house for safety, but they never make it inside. Unbeknownst to them, a second shooter is waiting near the porch. As the victims approach, he opens fire. 6 people are gunned down. Tina Shelton, Jerry Shelton, Brittany Powell, Shanetta Powell, and 8 months pregnant Shada Mahone, and baby Demetrius Powell Jr., never born. 3 more are wounded. The believed target, Lamont Powell, is still alive, but the bloodshed that night didn't begin in that backyard. Its roots were planted 3 years earlier in a murder that was never answered for.
Well, good morning, Kelly and Michelle. What we can tell you this morning is that Wilkinsburg police have beefed up their patrols in this area. Meanwhile, Allegheny County police are getting some help this morning from the ATF, DEA, FBI. Their #1 priority is finding those 2 shooters responsible for the massacre on Wednesday. Now, 49 rounds were sprayed from Hazel Way into this backyard barbecue. Police say 18 of them from a .40 caliber and 31 shots from what was likely an AK-47. Investigators say it was calculated and someone at that party was targeted. This is how it happened. Police say one of the shooters started firing a handgun from the back of the yard into the crowd. As partygoers started running towards the house, another gunman with an assault rifle stood along a side fence and opened fire. 8 people were hit, 4 were pronounced dead at the scene. Then, caught on camera moments after the ambush, this surveillance video obtained exclusively by Pittsburgh's Action News 4 shows 2 men walk down the street near the house 1 minute after the shooting. 2 minutes later, another man walks by. Police have no firm suspects right now, but are looking at some names, and the ATF again providing an extra incentive for tips.
We're looking at 2 shooters. They knew right where they were going. It appears to us that way anyhow.
Now, why this happened, also under investigation this morning. Police are exploring a couple of motives, 2 of 3, including if it was drug-related or possible retaliation.
Yeah, both men were already off the streets, arrested for unrelated charges. The problem for investigators was there was no eyewitnesses to the actual shooting, so police had to dig deep into surveillance video, even interviewing jailhouse inmates to build their case.
Robert Thomas and Sharon Shelton are the 2 men police say are behind one of the bloodiest crimes in Allegheny County's recent history.
Nobody else was involved in this. These 2 guys, they planned this, they carried it out. They had a reason to do it.
That reason, according to the DA, is this man, Lamont Powell, the target of the attack who survived. The criminal complaint against Shelton and Thomas says Powell was a suspect but was never charged in the 2013 murder of Calvin Doswell, who was Shelton's best friend.
Reporter Bob Hazen joins us live from the Pittsburgh Police Headquarters. Bob, witnesses say it all started because of a fight.
Yeah, that's what police here are telling us, and apparently it was 2 against 1 until that victim was shot to death. Overnight, we did get a picture of the victim. Take a look at it. He's 30-year-old Calvin Doswell, and he was found shortly before 11 o'clock last night in the Lincoln-Leamington neighborhood. Investigators say witnesses saw Doswell fighting with 2 other men on Oberlin Street near Stranahan Street before one of those other men pulled out a handgun and shot Doswell multiple times in the chest. The shooter and the other man that escaped, police tell us the killer himself had on a red hooded sweatshirt and blue jeans. The man who was with him had on a blue hoodie, and they are still on the loose this morning. Now, as of right now, Pittsburgh police can't say exactly what the motive for the fight and the shooting might be, but they are asking anyone with information about this murder to give them a call.
Obviously a devastating scene. Tell me what you can say about what unfolded here at this house.
It was a very well planned, calculated murder, and they basically herded people to a position in the yard, and there was a man waiting with a AK style
the district attorney just wrapped up
47 weapon, and he just opened up on people as they tried to get out of the yard.
And a lot of these people were women. There's children in the house as well. What can you say about what the possible motive might have been and who the targets might have been?
Well, right now we can tell you the way we work, we are eliminating possible motives right now. So there's several different scenarios that are off the table. Drugs, retaliation, there's a number of things. Physical evidence, we're lucky. Maybe that physical evidence comes back to somebody specifically. But right now, I mean, I had mentioned before, you know, I've been DA for 18 years. This is one of the worst crime scenes I've seen.
And as of right now, no word on a suspect or who these people might have been?
Not right now, no.
Almost immediately after the shooting, federal authorities moved in. The ATF and FBI joined the investigation, not just because of the body count, but because of what it suggested. It wasn't random. It looked organized, calculated, the kind of crime that sends shockwaves through the city. The feds would bring in advanced forensics, national intelligence, and ballistic experience. Weeks later, 2 names would emerge. Sharon Shelton, arrested March 25, 2016 for unrelated gun charges, and Robert Thomas, picked up on April 5th for an outstanding warrant. Then, on June 23, 2016, just over 3 months after the shooting, both men would be formally charged with multiple counts of homicide. And by the time the case would make it to trial in early 2020 inside the Allegheny County Courthouse in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, nearly 4 years after the massacre, it looked like the prosecution had everything lined up. Surveillance footage, ballistic matches, alleged jailhouse admissions. With the full weight of the FBI and its law enforcement partners behind it, this case had all of the makings of a slam dunk.
To make their case, detectives relied heavily on surveillance video and jailhouse witnesses.
Usually you don't have a nun who's witnessed the crime. So that was not the circumstances we have. So there's a lot. This is a circumstantial case.
The DA says cameras caught Shelton loading up an SUV on Nolan Court in the Homewood North complex with what appeared to be a rifle shortly before the attack. Later, that SUV was seen pulling onto Franklin Avenue where it was parked in a handicapped spot, and a Wilkinsburg officer saw Shelton getting into the SUV and leaving right after the shooting. Jailhouse witnesses told detectives Shelton and Thomas spoke freely about the murders. One witness saying, quote, Sharon told him that he wanted the family to go through what he went through. Another warned of even more bloodshed, saying Shelton, quote, wanted to go shoot the funerals up.
Now, those witnesses also told police that Thomas actually convinced Shelton not to attack the funerals. The weapons involved in the massacre have never been found. And we found out today that Penn Hills police actually encountered these 2 men just hours after the shooting when they were allegedly ditching those weapons, but they were not arrested then because there was no warrant for them at that time.
Later on in the trial, we had the chance to see a jailhouse video of Sharon Shelton. His dad came to visit him. Keep in mind, there's no audio in this video, but you can see Shelton making hand motions like he's pulling a trigger and firing a gun and then making a digging motion. We also have copies of the letters Shelton wrote to both his girlfriend, Chanel Falls, and her father, Adrian Falls, while in jail. In the letter to Adrian, Shelton says in part, Pops, I need you on some real expletive. Around the corner at Bubby's house, I got something there that I was working on getting rid of. You don't gotta do nothing but open the door and guide my expletive to it. It's downstairs next to the lawnmowers, wrapped and ready to be tossed.
One thing about a slam dunk is it's supposed to be the easiest shot. You just rise up and throw it in. But in the justice system, sometimes what looks easy rarely is. It takes the right witnesses, the right evidence, and the timing has to be precise. The story has to hold from beginning to the end without a single break, because in a courtroom, even the smallest crack can be enough to break the whole thing wide open. And sometimes, even the easiest shots miss.
Start with breaking news. The jury has reached a verdict in the Wilkinsburg mass shooting trial, not guilty. KDKA's Amy Wattis joins us live from the courthouse with more on what happened. Amy.
Yes, we were just released from Judge Borkowski's courtroom, and as you said, the jury came to a verdict saying that Sharon Shelton is not guilty of murdering 5 people as well as an unborn child back in March of 2016 in Wilkinsburg at that home on Franklin Avenue. As you can imagine, a lot of emotion in the courtroom when that verdict was read. We were sitting in front of several of the victims' family members, holding Kleenexes, sobbing, crying, hearing the the verdict. Sharon Shelton's family sat on the other side of the courtroom, and they appeared very serious initially, and then of course you could tell they were glad to hear the verdict that was read in the courtroom. There were a lot of sheriff's deputies standing by in that courtroom before the verdict was read. We counted a dozen plus a police dog standing outside just to make sure everybody was safe and secure based on the verdict that was read. But again, not guilty here. We saw several family members walking out into the hallway here on the third floor of the courthouse. Our other crew, Bob Allen, is here. Some family were shouting at the cameras just a moment ago, just very upset, saying that it is almost not fair to see this happen, that Sharon Shelton will be walking free. The judge did say that they are revoking his bond, though, until other matters of the court are taken care of. And as you know, throughout the course of this trial, there has been a gag order in this case, so we have not been able to speak with any of the attorneys, any family members, really anyone related to this trial. So the judge did lift that gag order, so we will be able to talk to the attorneys, find out more about this case, and then of course we will have the opportunity, jurors have the chance to speak to the media when there is an acquittal, but that will be up to the jurors themselves if they want to talk. They had been deliberating they started deliberating on Tuesday and just wrapped up deliberations today. So they'd been deliberating for, close to 24 hours in this case, so several days of deliberations, and reached their verdict just before lunchtime, not guilty.
And in the years after, the consequences of the Wilkinsonburg mass shooting continued to mount. Though the ambush took place on March 9, 2016, claiming 6 lives, including a pregnant woman and her unborn child, the toll didn't end there. 4 years later, in 2020, months after the trial acquittal, John Ellis, a neighbor who had simply stopped by the cookout that fateful night and was left paralyzed by the shooting, would die from medical complications stemming from the gunfire that night. The origins of it all, at least on paper, trace back to the murder of Calvin Doswell, a killing in which some believe Lamont Powell may have been involved in. But what if he wasn't? What if Sharon Shelton, the man later charged and acquitted in the mass shooting, actually did it, fueling a retaliatory storm based on a false assumption? What if Lamont Powell was simply a name whispered on the wrong night, and that whisper cost him nearly half his family? In total, Powell would lose 2 sisters, Brittany and Shanetta Powell, 1 brother, Jerry Shelton, a cousin, Tina Shelton, and a close family friend, as well as an unborn nephew, all from the fallout from a murder that he may have had no part in. Altogether, the cycle would claim at least 8 lives across 2 shootings. Doswell, Powell's siblings, cousin, unborn nephew, close friend, and eventually John Ellis. Yet, no one has ever served a day in prison for any of those murders. So the question I really have for y'all is, how does Lamont Powell live the rest of his life? Especially if he had nothing to do with the very act that started this deadly chain. And for anyone happen to be listening, let this stand as a warning, as I seem like I said this dozens of times on this platform before. In life, the weight of consequences don't always fall on the one who acts. Sometimes it crushes the ones merely caught in the shadow of their name. Now, y'all make sure y'all hit the red bell and subscribe button right under this video so y'all know when this real trail spill shit is dropping. Y'all get in the comment box below. Y'all let me know what cities we need to go to, what stories we need to tell, what we missed, what we got wrong, all of that. Y'all make sure y'all tapping with me directly on Instagram, Twitter, POP_A_LOT. And until the next play, y'all know how we rocking. Shades Popalot. Salute the almighty mob.